Colombia or Malaysia, two countries on opposite sides of the globe, both promising cheap living, friendly people, and a way out of the insane cost of the US. But which one actually wins if you're looking to retire, work remotely, or just live abroad without breaking the bank? Today, we're putting them head to head across 10 categories: cost of living, taxes, healthcare, safety, even flight times. And I'll tell you which one comes out on top. Hey guys, I'm Matt, the Americano, and I help you figure out how to actually make the move abroad. Whether it's visas, taxes, or just what groceries cost, I've got you covered. So if you're even thinking about moving overseas, hit subscribe and grab my free expat checklist at The Passport. The link's in the description below. Now let's dive into our Colombia versus Malaysia showdown. And before we get started, I've had the opportunity and pleasure to have coffees or dinners with a few of my viewers whom I now get to call my friends. I'm thinking of maybe anyone in Bogotá meeting for lunch or dinner as a group on October 18th. I'll organize a restaurant that can accommodate us. Maybe it's Medellín or Wok. If you have an interest, I put an RSVP link in the description so I can get a head count. The only cost you would have is paying for your own meal and drinks. There's no other costs, just a chance for fellow expats to meet. Let's start with the big one, cost of living. Because if you're moving abroad, you want your money to stretch, and both Colombia and Malaysia deliver here. First up is Colombia. In cities like Medellín or Bogotá, you can rent a modern one-bedroom apartment for around $400 to $800 a month. Eating out, a full restaurant meal runs $3 to $6. Even groceries are affordable, though imports can be very pricey. That fancy jar of peanut butter might set you back more than your lunch bill. Now for Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur or Penang are in the same ballpark, $400 to $700 a month for a nice one bedroom, and street food is legendary and insanely cheap, often $2 to $4 for a full plate. Western style groceries cost a little more than Colombia, but local produce is dirt cheap. Who wins? Honestly, this round's a tie. Both countries are crazy affordable compared to the US or Europe. If you're a foodie, Malaysia might tip the scale because you can eat out at every day for the price of a Starbucks latte. But if you want a mix of cheap eats plus lower rent, Colombia holds its own. Now let's talk about flights. Because unless you're cutting ties completely, you'll probably want to visit family and friends back home. So first up, Colombia. From Medellín or Bogotá, you're looking at about 3 to 3.5 hours to Miami, around 5 to 6 hours to New York. That's basically the same as flying from LA to Chicago. Super easy for a long weekend or a quick holiday trip back to the States. Malaysia, on the flip side, Kuala Lumpur is about 15 to 20 hours away if you're flying to the US East Coast. And that usually means 2 or more connections. It's not a quick family visit. It's a whole ordeal, jet lag included. And I'll be honest with you, it's brutal. The good news, you're only a short hop from Thailand, Vietnam, Singapore, and Bali. Who wins? Well, if you're American, Colombia takes this round hands down. It's basically in your backyard. But if your dream is bouncing around Southeast Asia on budget airlines, Malaysia is a solid hub. It really depends on which direction you're flying. Okay, flights are one thing. But what about actually staying long term? Let's compare how Colombia and Malaysia handle visas and residency. So first up, Colombia. Colombia makes it pretty straightforward. They've got a digital nomad visa that lasts 1 to 2 years if you earn just $900 a month from abroad. Retirees, you qualify for the M11 retirement visa with as little as $800 a month in pension income. And if you're an investor, dropping around $90,000 into real estate can land you a residency qualifying visa. Renewals are usually smooth if you stay on top of the paperwork. Malaysia? Well, Malaysia's main path for retirees is the MM2H, also known as the Malaysia My Second Home program, but it comes with way higher requirements. You'll need proof of significant liquid assets and monthly income, plus fixed deposits in Malaysian banks. They also tweak the rules often, which can make it feel a bit unstable. For digital nomads, Malaysia does have a newer DE Rantau Nomad Pass, but it's aimed more at tech professionals earning at least $24,000 a year. So who wins? In terms of ease and affordability, this round goes to Colombia. Lower income requirements, multiple visa pathways, and generally less red tape. Malaysia's visas work, but you'll need deeper pockets and a bit more patience. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite subject, taxes. Because saving money on rent doesn't matter much if your new country is going to tax you to death. So first up, Colombia. If you spend more than 183 days in Colombia in a year, congratulations. you're now a tax resident. That means Colombia taxes your worldwide income. The good news is Colombia doesn't tax U.S. Social Security or anything that resembles a pension. But if you're a U.S. expat working online, you can still claim the foreign earned income exclusion. That's about $130,000 for 2025, but you still may have to file and possibly pay in Colombia if you cross certain thresholds. Malaysia runs on a territorial tax system. In the translation, you generally pay taxes only on income sourced inside Malaysia. For expats and retirees, that's a huge plus. Foreign pensions, Social Security, investment income, and business income earned outside of Malaysia usually aren't taxed, even if you bring the money into the country. There's been debate about tightening those rules, but as of 2025, Malaysia is still one of the most tax-friendly places for expat. Who wins? This round, I have to say, goes to Malaysia. If your retirement or digital nomad income comes from abroad, Malaysia barely looks at it. Colombia is still manageable, but you'll have more paperwork, accountants, and potential tax bills to deal with. Okay, healthcare. Because living abroad is great until you actually need a doctor. So how do Colombia and Malaysia compare? Well, Colombia, this might surprise you, but according to the World Health Organization's 2000 report, Colombia actually ranked number 22 in the world for healthcare, ahead of the United States, which was number 37. Colombia runs on a universal public system called EPS, and as a resident, you can join for around $25 to $30 a month. It covers a lot, though wait times can be long, although that has not been my experience. Most expats combine it with private care, which is still super affordable. Think $60 to $150 a month for private insurance, $40 to $60 for a specialist visit, and even major surgeries are 60 to 80% cheaper than in the US. Medellin, Bogotá, and Bucaramanga all have internationally accredited hospitals that rank among the best in Latin America. Malaysia came in lower on that same WHO report at number 49, but it has a global reputation with its private healthcare as a medical tourism hub. Private hospitals like Prince Court Medical Center and Gleneagles in Kuala Lumpur are world-class, modern, English-speaking, and highly efficient. Costs are still far below the US. Specialist visits around $30 to $50, MRIs $200 to $250, and private insurance usually $100 to $250 a month, depending on age. Malaysia doesn't have a universal EPS-style system like Colombia, but its private sector is polished and very international. Who wins? Well, if you're looking at official rankings, Colombia actually wins on paper. But if you're asking expats which system feels smoother and more English-friendly, Malaysia often comes out ahead. Colombia is cheaper overall. Malaysia has more of that 5-star hospital reputation. Either way, both countries deliver excellent healthcare at a fraction of US prices. So we'll call this one a tie. Let's get real for a second. Safety. It's usually the number one concern when people ask me about moving abroad. Colombia's reputation still carries the baggage of the 80s and 90s, but fast forward to today and things have changed a lot. Cities like Medellin and Bogotá are perfectly livable with thriving expat communities. That said, petty crime, pickpocketing, phone snatching is still common, especially in crowded areas. Violent crime does exist, but as an expat, you're unlikely to be involved if you stick to safe neighborhoods and use common sense. Politically, it's stable enough, though protests and strikes happen. Malaysia, by contrast, is considered one of the safest countries in Asia. Violent crime is rare, gun laws are strict, and the biggest issues expats run into are things like purse snatching or scams. Politically, it's relatively stable. Occasional unrest, but nothing on a level that impacts daily life. And for retirees, it's very reassuring to be in a country that consistently ranks high on safety indexes. Who wins? Well, if I have to be 100% honest, this round probably goes to Malaysia. Colombia has made huge progress, and you can live safely here, but Malaysia edges it out with lower crime rates and greater overall stability. All right, let's talk language, because daily life is way easier when you actually understand what people are saying to you. Spanish is the name of the game in Colombia. In Bogotá or Medellin, you'll find some English in tourist areas, but for things like doctors, banks, or government offices, it's probably Spanish only. The good news, Colombians are patient, and immersion here will skyrocket your Spanish skills. But if you're not willing to learn at least the basics, you'll feel limited. In Malaysia, you've hit the jackpot. English is considered one of the official languages and is widely spoken, especially in cities, hospitals, and by younger generations. Signs are often bilingual, and the government itself operates largely in English. This is primarily because it was a former British colony. Malay is the national language, but as an expat, you can live there for years without feeling lost. So who wins? Well, this round definitely goes to Malaysia. Colombia will give give you a fast-track Spanish course in real life, which is a plus if you want that, but for sheer ease of transition, especially for retirees or first-time expats, Malaysia's English advantage makes life a whole lot smoother. Now let's get to the fun part, culture and lifestyle, because it's not just about cost and visas, it's about what daily life actually feels like. Colombia is pure energy. You've got salsa dancing, vibrant street festivals, and that warm social culture where even your taxi driver wants to chat. Bogotá in particular has become a bit of a foodie paradise with high-end restaurants, coffee culture, and international flavors. Medellin is more about nightlife and a laid-back digital nomad scene, while coastal cities like Cartagena and Santa Marta lean into Caribbean vibes. Outside of Bogotá, though, the food scene isn't quite as global. It's more traditional, hearty Colombian fare. Malaysia is one of the world's food capitals. You've got Malay, Chinese, and Indian influences blending into a culinary paradise. And most of it costs just a couple of bucks at a hawker stall. Add in modern malls, tropical islands, and cultural festivals year-round, and you've got a country where every day feels like an adventure. Lifestyle-wise, it's a bit more conservative than Colombia. It's a Muslim-majority nation, but still welcoming and diverse. So who wins this one? This one's tough. If you're a nightlife, coffee, or dance culture person, Colombia delivers big time. If you're a foodie or love mixing cultures, Malaysia takes the crown. Honestly, this round comes down to what flavor of lifestyle you're looking for. I would call this one a tie. And since lifestyle isn't complete without what's in your glass, let's talk wine, beer, and spirits. Colombia isn't world famous for wine, but you'll find plenty of imported bottles from Chile and Argentina at decent prices. Beer culture is strong. Aguila, Club Colombia, and a growing craft beer scene in Bogotá and Medellin. Spirits, this is rum and aguardiente country. Rum lovers will be happy, and aguardiente, well, let's just say it's an acquired taste. And there's plenty of Scotch whiskey available here from, of course, Scotland. And you can get a little bit of American whiskey and a little bit of Ireland whiskey. Here's where Malaysia is trickier. As a Muslim-majority country, alcohol isn't as widely available. You'll find it in expat bars, hotels, and some restaurants, but choices are limited and prices are high due to taxes. Imported wine, beer, and spirits are significantly more expensive, and craft options are slim compared to Colombia. Who wins this one? Well, if you enjoy a glass of wine with dinner or love exploring local craft beer, Colombia is absolutely the clear winner. Malaysia isn't dry, but it's not cheap or easy to find variety, and alcohol just isn't part of the mainstream culture. Alright, so you've got your food, your lifestyle, maybe even your favorite drink sorted. But what about community? Because moving abroad is a whole lot easier when you're not the only foreigner in town. Colombia's expat community is growing fast, especially in places like Medellin, Bogotá, and Cartagena. You'll find Facebook groups, language exchanges, co-working spaces, and a good mix of retirees and digital nomads. But compared to other countries, it's still feels fairly new. You're not going to find entire neighborhoods that are 50% expats. The upside, you'll blend more with locals if you want that authentic experience. Malaysia, on the other hand, has long-standing expat hubs, particularly in Kuala Lumpur and Penang. Retirees have been coming here for decades under the MM2H program, and digital nomads are increasingly setting up shop in KL. English being so widely spoken makes it easy to integrate, and you'll find established clubs, meetups, and even expat schools. It feels very turnkey, like the infrastructure for foreigners is already built. Who wins? This one was tough. I asked a lot of people on this one because I voted Colombia for this one, but once I counted all the votes from everyone and even gave myself 2 votes, this round goes to Malaysia. Colombia's expat scene is exciting and expanding, but Malaysia's community is bigger, better organized, and more established. If you're looking for instant connections, Malaysia has the edge. All right, let's tally it up. Here's how Colombia and Malaysia scored head-to-head. Cost of living, tie. Flights and distance, Colombia. Visa and residency, Colombia. Taxes, Malaysia. Healthcare, a tie. Safety and stability, Malaysia. Language, Malaysia. Culture and lifestyle, a tie, depends on your vibe. Wine, beer, and spirits, Colombia. Expat community, Malaysia. That's a pretty close match. Colombia wins on proximity to the US, easier visas, and a livelier drinking culture. Malaysia dominates on taxes, healthcare, safety, English, and community. Lifestyle is kind of a toss-up. Are you into salsa nights and coffee in Bogotá, or hawker stalls and multicultural festivals in Penang? So what's the takeaway? If you're American and want to stay close to home, while keeping costs low and visas easy, Colombia is hard to beat. If you want English, low taxes, and a turnkey expat scene, Malaysia comes out on top, as long as you don't mind the longer flight back to see family. So now you've seen Colombia and Malaysia go head-to-head. But here's the real question. Which one would you choose? Drop a comment below. I read every one of them, and I want to know where you'd rather unpack your suitcase. If you found this video helpful, smash that like button so YouTube knows this is worth sharing, and hit the subscribe so you don't miss the next Expat Showdown. And if you're serious about making the move abroad, grab my free expat checklist at the Passport. The link's in the description below. It'll walk you through everything: visas, taxes, banking, healthcare, so you don't miss a step when planning your move. Thanks for watching. I'm Matt, the Americano, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. I've had the opportunity and pleasure to have coffees or dinners with a few of my viewers, whom I now get to call my friends. I'm thinking of maybe anyone in Bogotá meeting for lunch or dinner as a group on October 18th. I'll organize a restaurant that can accommodate us. Maybe it's Medellín or Wok. If you have an interest, I put an RSVP link in the description so I can get a head count. The only cost you would have is paying for your own meal and drinks. There's no other costs, just a chance for fellow expats to meet.